on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now.
Jimothy.
So, ladies and gents, we are back with another little bit of a deck list, as well as a tournament report for my most recent adventure to a regional. Now, I plan to do a lot more regionals in the upcoming months, mainly because I want to start going to a few more events and just practicing other decks and trying other techs and just the whole regional experience. And it was actually a bit of a fun one. It was probably about 2.5 to 3 hour drive from where we normally live, and there was a group of us that went down there, and one of my friends actually managed to just top the whole event, which was just absolutely crazy. But yeah, all in all, I played Vanquish Soul mainly because I was so frustrated with Droll, and it was the correct meta call because Droll was in everybody's like main deck. Well, at least the people that I came across anyway. And if I was playing Vanadium, I probably would have just got locked out the game, and it would have been really frustrating. But I played Vanquish Soul, and I do believe it was the correct choice, mainly because a lot of the games that I lost were just simply out of my control. Like, I did everything that I possibly could in order to win the game, in terms of what Vanquish Soul is capable of. And with the non-engine, the deck is capable of a lot right now, but I still managed to lose those games, which was really interesting. Just a few weird matchups and a couple of duplicate replays, well, I say replays, duplicate matchups throughout the day. So just going through my tournament report, 7 rounds. I think it was like potentially about a 90-man regional, potentially a little bit more than that. So it was a fair size, fair amount of duelists, a few duelists that I knew, a few people from far and wide came. And round 1, I was up against Labyrinth. I managed to take the W against Labyrinth, which was nice, mainly because Labyrinth, you would think that Labyrinth would outgrind you, but bearing in mind the Vanquish Soul monsters, if they can get their Rock of the Vanquisher to stick, like, you aren't losing a grind game against Labyrinth. You can literally just start picking off their back row, especially with Caesar Valius, Pantera, as well as Razor, and just blowing stuff up constantly each turn, as well as adding resources to your hand. It's crazy. So I managed to win that matchup. Super Poly did save me, which is crazy. I think I was playing Super Poly. Super Poly, one of his monsters, he bounced the Starving Venom back to my extra deck, and then I super polyed again, and that's actually what won me the game, which was crazy. Round 2, this was one of my kryptonite, which I'm finding a very difficult matchup, was Mekanko. Lost to Mekanko. This time I got Acid Golemed, so it was a game 1, he just went full combo. He didn't actually Acid Golem me game 1, he just put up a crazy board, and I just couldn't play through it. Game 2, I won. I just out-resourced him. I think I flipped summon limit as well on his second monster summon, and he just stunned out the game. And then he set 1, and just Caesar Valius popped it in the end phase, and that was all she wrote. And then in that game 3, just Acid Golem locked me out of the game. I couldn't do anything. That had no means of getting it off the board. If I seen a Bestial, potentially I could have, but then I didn't side Bestials in because he didn't have any targets in his graveyard. It was all crazy, so I lost that game. Round 3, I was up against Virtual World Brave, which was a shock to the system. I did not expect to see this deck, and I'll be honest, like, letting that deck go unchecked, it can just absolutely blow you out of the water. The board that it puts up is literally, it kind of like reminds me of Vanadium. Like, there's a lot that's on there. It just goes off. But I managed to do that mainly because he bricked in game 3. It was a good game 1. I kind of stunned him game 2. I just had way too much resources, and in game 3 he actually bricked, which was a little bit unfortunate. So yeah, round 4, I played against Mekanko again, which was so frustrating. I lost this game in 8 minutes, which was crazy. So game 1, I think, I don't even know what happened. Yeah, game 1, I got locked out of the game with the Acid Golem. And then game 2, he just lava golemed my setup, basically. I think I had like a Fenrir as well as Rock of the Vanquisher, and I had quite a few bits and pieces ready, but then the Mekanko monsters can just attack into the lava golem anyway and do like 9k damage, which was just silly. So I lost that game. It was a little bit unfortunate. Round 5, I played against Chimera Branded. This was probably the most interesting matchup. I actually... Game 1 and 2 was interesting, but game 3 is where it was at. So what happened was he fused into Mirror Jade, and I had a full setup. I had Fenrir, everything was on field, and he only had Mirror Jade. Then he managed to fusion summon into one of the illusion beasts, the big one that can attack multiple times. So what I kept doing was, because I knew Mirror Jade was fusion summon and I didn't want my field to be wiped, I kept Zhao Long switching its defense position switching it to defense position at the start of the battle phase, which is really, really funny because all my monsters, well, the only Vanquish Soul monster that he could attack into was the one that was in defense. So I was literally just burning him with Borga and then putting his monster in defense position, which was really, really funny. So it got to time and he had like, I don't know, 1,500 life points left and he just conceded, which was really funny. But yeah, that's probably the first time I've actually used Zhao Long's effect so frequently. Round 6, I played against Pearly, really grinding matchup. I managed to out-resource him game 1, which was funny because I went second. He didn't hit anything off his Pelili, which was funny. And then game 2, he actually made a little bit of a misplay. So, he beat me game 2, just out-resourced me, shuffled a lot of stuff away with Noir. And in game 3, he actually went into, I made a Baguska and passed. He went into SP Little Knight without making a extra deck monster and he proceeded to banish my Baguska. And he proceeded a little bit and then he actually drew it back himself because I missed it. I don't know what I was doing. I think I was tired. And he just says, I concede because I've made a misplay. I was like, do you know what? Fair play for your honesty because I completely missed that. And then finally, the last matchup was again against Virtual World Brave. Like, I broke the most crazy board going first. He even said to me after the match, he played that game 1 so well. I didn't think he'd be able to do it, especially with Vanquish Soul, which was just nuts. Like, it was crazy. Like, some of the stuff that I did, I prosped for 3 because I was like basically trying to just bait him into using an effect because he thought that I might have had triple tactics talents. But I prosped into 3 and actually drew into Super Poly, which meant that I cleared off some of his board, which was quite funny. And then game 2, we just set up a crazy board and clapped me. And in game 3, I actually went first, but I actually bricked. So I put in 4 trap cards, and I did not see one Vanquish Soul monster. I think I had Stake Your Soul in hand as well. I had, like, everything was just there, ready to go. And I think he ashed my prosp, and I just couldn't do anything. Like, it was just crazy. So he just managed to take that. He put Griffin Rider and a token on board and beat me over 2 turns, which was really, really frustrating because he managed to top as a result, and he went with a record of X11, which was funny. And if I'd have won, I would have went with a record of X2, and I definitely would have topped and got my invite, which was just, it was a bit like, oh, whatever. But nevertheless, ladies and gents, it did like serve me well because the list in of itself is just, it's solid. So as you can see on field, this is exactly what I played. It worked out mainly because the non-engine like carried the deck. I feel like the only thing that I really, really missed, and I feel like I try and squeeze it in somewhere, was Imperm. Like, Imperm would have been a very, very big help because when I think about it, I don't really run that many hand traps. 3 Ash and 2 DD Crow in the main. Everything else is like a board breaker. And obviously your own setup anyway is just naturally interaction. So it was a little bit like, I don't know if I missed it or not, but the matches that I lost, like I said, they were out of my control and there's not really much I could have done. But yeah, I think the most standout performer of the day was Zhao Long. Zhao Long just put in so much work. Like, there was one game, again, like my opponent was like, how many cards have you got in your hand? I was like, oh, I've got 7. And I had 3 monsters on field. He was like, I don't get how I'm so far behind in card advantage, which is crazy. Summon limit over TCB, I definitely do think that's probably the way forward. It's a little bit weird, and the reason why I went 2 and 2 in the side deck is because the format's so diverse. Now, there can be only one who's really good into like Pearly and Unchained, but if I don't play those decks and I play, I don't know, like Sea Elements, like there can be only one, doesn't do anything. Branded, there can be only one, doesn't really do anything. So Summon limit definitely hits those decks, which is really, really interesting. So it was a tough one. Fenrir as well, is just a crazy card. The Fenrir and the Rise Art package worked really nice because there was a few times that I went into Dweller and it turned out to be like the game deciding like factor basically. Dempsey was a nice line. Zeus came up a few times. I didn't actually make Typhon that much, mainly because when I got to the point where I would have made Typhon, it was just easy to just go with my Vanquish Soul plays, which was interesting. But every single card in the side deck was used at some point, which was really, really good. Even the Kurikaras against Pearly, that just came in clutch. Like my player was like, my opponent said, if you'd have drawed that, I would have won. Because I can do quite a lot of damage with Borga, Caesar Valius, and as well as the Kurikara Div Incarnate, and then I can just burn the rest for game. So it's not difficult to win, if you get what I'm saying. So really, really interesting. But like I said, ladies and gents, I feel like the meta is in an interesting place, mainly because we don't really know where it's going at the moment, and it's going to be really difficult to see what the ban list does to affect the meta, mainly because like there's so many decks that are viable. Like, what do you do? Where do you go? Which ones do you hit first? Like, do you hit like Pearly? Do you hit Unchained? If you hit either one of those and like the other one and the other one becomes viable, it's really difficult. And prepping for an event like a regional or even a YCS, it's really difficult. As much as there are like really strong decks in Rescue, Ace, Pearly, Unchained, and that, you don't know what combination of decks you're gonna see. Like, Manalium was in the room, but then I came up against like Virtual World Brave, which just was crazy. You just don't know. So it's nice in a sense, but then at the same time it can be a little bit tricky to like navigate. But in terms of the deck list, really happy. I used the Dark Hole Dark Dragon tech that like Cali Effect had mentioned previously. Like, I was always thinking about putting this in anyway, but it actually really did come up, mainly because it was more of a threat than necessarily the effect of itself. And Dark Hole as well, just like, if your opponent's not ready for it, it will just stun somebody out. I mean, if I had that against the Mechanical player, like, I would definitely have won. Like, and that was my thinking behind putting it in. If I get like Iblid or anything like that, I can just Dark Hole and just wipe the field. But it was tough. It was tough, ladies and gents. But all in all, I'm very happy with the deck. I do love this deck. Probably my favorite deck in the game. Like, I picked it as a comfort pick, and it seemed to work out, to be honest. So yeah, can't really say much else other than I need to take this to another locals or another regional and just kind of like get my top going, man, because like I feel like this deck deserves it. So yeah. But anyway, we find ourselves at the end of another video. As always, if you do like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.